Hello, everyone. This is Ed Brenegar, Circle of Impact Leadership, and it's my pleasure today to be talking with two guys that I have a great deal of respect for, Sean Georges and John Buford. And they have written a book that I think is one of the best leadership books that I have seen in the last 40 years. I know that sounds very hyperbolic, but it's not. I believe it's an important book, and I'd want you to come away from this interview believing that there's something in it for you. So, so listen up, because we're going to talk about things that are important to us. So, Sean and John, would you explain a little bit about who you are and how the two of you got to this place in your lives where you have a book that you're offering to the world? And make that short, but I think it's a great story.
John, I'll give it a shot here, and John can add his color to the story. Yeah, it is a remarkable. One of the blessings in my life was in third grade, moved to a small town in Illinois, and there was this kid sitting in the classroom who was John Buford, and I was attracted to him as a friend from the very beginning, and he just had this energy and this sense of adventure about him that kind of began our friendship, and so that friendship has continued through life, through all of its ups and downs, and John and I have had some common experiences as well. We stayed in touch over the years. We played high school football and did some other things along the way, and we both ended up in the Marine Corps by different paths, and we were both Marine officers, so we had that kind of common grounding. And after I left the Marines, John retired from the Marine Corps, but after I left the Marines after 13 years and got out into the civilian world, a transition that I think we'll talk more about. One of the things the Marines do is they take very seriously this aspect of leadership, of who you are as a leader, what it means to lead. So John and I, and especially after he left active duty, we continued to have conversations around something that I had observed was really lacking in the civilian world. I joined a law firm and then ultimately went in-house for a publicly traded retailer, and I just saw around me lots of titles, lots of positions of leadership that called for leadership, but I'm not being mean to anyone. What I quickly realized is that we do not prepare people for the responsibilities. We give out titles, we promote all of these things, but we do not in our society do a capable job, not even a competent job of really preparing people for what it means to lead and how to lead human beings in the direction of a shared mission. So I kept in touch with John, and I said, John, we need to see if we could fill this gap. I think we may have something to offer. So that started a conversation, lots of emails, which we still both have. And then that led to this idea of trying to put it together in a book that was really built around a sense of a journey as a part of the development process. And then John played right into his experience in wilderness leadership and experiential education. And then after 10 years of collaborating, we managed to get this book published.
So it took you 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. Yeah, and I think a lot of the currency that kind of underpinned this effort was, Sean was always asking me. I was always a bit of a leadership geek, but he was always asking the hard questions. And well, what started to emerge was this idea of, or this question is good leadership across different venues, different professions, different missions. And although we look a lot alike and we came from the same town and we're in the Marine Corps, we've actually traveled some pretty different paths. Sean in business, me in outdoor wilderness leadership, and then higher ed, taught at college for a while, both in the nonprofit world. And what emerged was this triangulation, this, okay, what is good leadership? Is it the same with a multinational corporation or a big headquarters in the military as it is in a small team on a wilderness expedition or a sports team? And that's what really fueled our idea about focusing in on what the absolute fundamentals are that cut across all boundaries. And I think that was really the question, the driving question that we try to answer is what's best, right? Which we kind of open with in our book.
You set up the book as a description of a journey that we can go on, a leadership journey. In the book, you describe different types of journeys of the prisoner, the passenger, the vacationer, the explorer. Which one are you guys?
I like to think the explorer. That came out of a piece I was talking about when I teach. We talk a lot about learning. One chapter, one whole section of the book emerged fairly early was this notion that Sean talked about as being a journey. There's lots of books out there that talk about this is what is, this is what's best, these are the principles. There's no shortage of those, and most of them are really good and very true. But we thought we really want to talk about developing as a leader and a person's journey on how they become where they are, and then how to be intentional about continuing that journey. And so, there's I think it's a probably Chinese proverb, but when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? And I always found a pretty big correlation between the attitude that my students brought to learning, the ability to learn. Sean knows I am not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I did get a PhD because I wanted to get a PhD, and I was ready to get a PhD, right? And so that prisoner, passenger, vacationer, explorer is just a thought about, are you just a prisoner in your environment? Are you just along for the ride? Do you like looking good but staying within your comfort zone? Or are you willing to take risks and put yourself out there and learn from your mistakes and your successes? I'd like to think that we're explorers, that we've always been that way. But we probably, it's different times in your life and different situations. You take one of those roles on, but always try to be an explorer.
It sounds like what you're doing in the book is addressing the issue of self-perception or self-awareness, and how important that is. And what I see is that there are a lot of people who suffer from not being very clear about who they are, and therefore, and I know you address this in the book, they don't believe that they can do things, and so they typically just hang back and they don't take responsibility, and they don't believe, and so they kind of get lost in some kind of funk where they never find out who they are and never realize that they have all this potential that is waiting for them just to begin to act on. So tell us a little bit about how that is worked out in your book, because I think that's one of the things that people will gain from reading it.
And that's such an important point, I think, especially when it comes to leadership. And one of the things John and I are really try to be thoughtful about is it's about who we are as a human being. So there's not this sort of leader self and then this, the person you are at home or in the community. The idea is to bring some, integrity into it, where there's this one person this one person, and we've observed this with the best leaders in our life, whether Marine Corps, for me, the law, or corporate America, or nonprofit world, the best leaders, the ones that had the deepest influence and impact, they were the same across the spectrum of their life. And I just observed that. And I remember thinking, there's something to that. There isn't this, put on the Batman cape and step into the workplace, and, you're standing there with some kind of a pose. And it was who they were. And also it becomes much easier to lead from that place of, and that's why we use the word authenticity, authentic, real, state of realness, if you will. And I think that's an important part of an important aspect of this whole thing, this becoming thing, this becoming a leader, is that it is, as we define leadership, who you are and what you do to move people, their level of commitment, how they think, how they act in the direction of a shared mission. So you've always got a context, right? The context is that we're trying to accomplish something. And, you notice lots of things that are not in that definition. So many things: title, rank, resume, height, weight, skin color, where you went to school, whether you went to school, etc. It's about how you're engaging through your relationship with your teammates, those with whom you share a purpose or a mission. So it affects every relationship in your life. Not that we're always perfect. In fact, we fall short many times, but you're always bouncing back up. Okay, how can I serve at a higher level in support of this person so that we can accomplish something? And we just saw this. I know for me, I saw it with admirals who were impressive. I saw it with Marine Corps generals. I saw it with Lance corporals who led well, at lower levels in different situations. And it was just a common element that was very compelling.
So I'm taking from this that you didn't write this book for a particular classification or category of person in the work world, that you wrote this book and it's really for anyone and everyone who has the desire to do something with their life, which is beyond just kind of showing up and going through the motions.
Right.
So
Yeah,
this
it's
beyond the individual contributor. And the other thing, to get back to your point, and I'll get off I'll get off this, but one of the things I observed is very smart, very talented, very experienced, capable people that who did not embrace the opportunity and responsibility to lead in various situations. There's a little snippet in there about a law firm I once worked at after I left the Marine Corps, and the senior managing partner, impressive in every way, just an impressive looking individual, probably a tremendous lawyer, who did not see his leadership role the way we define it. In other words, engaging with his teammates in the direction of, teaching them, coming to know them, giving them some of his experience and time and energy, and seeing to their welfare and professional growth. He just did not. It was he saw himself in a limited role. So he sort of stayed in his office, he stayed on that side, and he didn't engage. And it's a story of the 3 emails over the course of 2 years. He sent out 3 emails to the professionals in the law firm. One said, the ice scoop goes outside the machine, not don't leave it in the machine. That was one email. Second email over the course of 2 years was, if you take a magazine into the bathroom, you better bring it out. And the third was a rather threatening email about you better get your billing paperwork in, or you're going to be damn surprised by the result. Missed opportunities. Why? Because he didn't see that as a part of his role and his responsibility to us, at least the junior lawyers in the firm. Opportunities missed. And that is not what I observed in the Marine Corps. And I thought there was something important that had been lost.
John, you tell a similar story about a college president that you worked under for a while. It's similar, in that detachment from the human dimension of being a president of a college.
Yeah, that was the long and short of it is I contrasted two organizational leaders, a college president, and then his the one who came after him. The first one, and I was brand new. When he spoke of the college and the college community, he spoke in the third person. He was very refined, very smart, impeccable dress. But he talked about the trustees. He talked about the student body. He talked about the faculty, the staff, the institution. He called our college. He called it the institution, and it really was sideways to me because I guess maybe it's my background from kind of the rough and tumble sports and Marine Corps, but it was always, come on team, we can do this. The second person whom you mentioned, the second president, everything was our trustees, our college, we, us. It was in the first person. And although there's more to being a college president than that, there's no more acute effect than leadership on how an organization functions. And you could just feel the angst in the community, in the faculty with the first person, looking over their shoulders, wondering, okay, I'm we, he's he. The second one, we all felt, I called it, driving a ship or leading a crew. The first one was driving a ship. The second was leading a crew. And we all felt, I think I can speak for everyone, we all felt we were on his team and he counted on us to help steer the ship.
Yeah.
So it was a small thing in some ways, but it had huge implications and ripple effects throughout the organization.
So what you guys are saying is that it's not only important to have self-awareness or self-knowledge, but you also have to have an awareness of the context that you're in, and without that, then you're going to be lost. And that's and I think I see that everywhere I go. That sense of detachment from context. They don't even know what that word means, and so I think what you say in your book is really helpful in that. And so I'm glad you've addressed it, because I think it's one of the needs that people in organizations, that people in communities need to address, because I think they don't want to address the context issue because it requires them to take responsibility for what they learn. If they don't have to take responsibility, then they could just avoid scrutiny, avoid complications, whatever that is that they do it.
One of the hard lessons, the hard points that I would always try to get through to my undergraduate students, I mention them because they're young adults and they're just trying to find their voice in the world, a voice as a leader, is often there is some hesitancy to take on leadership responsibilities because they felt, the word leader, it has so many different words, and it can be a position. Like you say, he's the leader or she's the leader. Everybody knows who that is, right? I'm not saying that's wrong, but one thing we say in the book is leadership is a service to others, not an imposition on others. And Sean beats this drum so well, and it's number one of our. We put in 9 commitments that we ask people to think about and to make. But our commitment number 1 is define yourself as a leader. And that sounds like a small thing, but once you do that, this goes back to what Sean was just saying. Once you define yourself as a leader, and recognize that's not being boastful. That's not saying you're better than someone else, or you should be in charge, or you should be the sole decision maker. That's just embracing that notion that you have leadership responsibilities. And that could come up, Ed, that can come up in the checkout line at the grocery store.
Absolutely.
You know, there's something there's something wrong with the kid bagging doesn't bag right, and the lady gets mad, and people are angry, and you can step back and be a passenger on that ride, or you can step forward from a servant perspective and try to move people towards moving through the checkout line, right? Or whatever your common mission to those
Shared
five
mission,
people are. Yeah. So defining yourself as a leader and accepting those leadership responsibilities is a big step for people. It really is. It can be a big step, and we really hope that people can embrace that as task number one. Kind of work yourself into this.
Well, it's obvious that you'd like to sell a lot of books. I mean, everybody writes a book wants to sell it. So taking that off the table, let's talk about what your hope for this book is. And looking a year or maybe 2 years down the road, if people have gotten a hold of this, let's talk a little bit about what you hope to see as the outcome or the impact of this book upon people's lives, upon their communities, upon their businesses, their schools, their, wherever they find themselves engaged in life. What is it? What's your hope?
I think I can address one of the things which really comes from our vision. So the vision that is kind of energizing this work is centered around developing a community of authentic leaders who are prepared to serve across the spectrum of their lives. So if you can, one of the things we're absolute believers in is that, that most of the work in our families, in our communities, at work, most of the effort is done in a team environment. And one of the things John and I've observed throughout our lives is that the most highly functioning teams are filled with people who are capable of leading. They don't have to be the leader. What do we need? We need a team filled with people who can lead. And so what you get in the best teams is this what we kind of call this leadership dance. It's a shared set of responsibilities. Sometimes I'm following John's lead. There's a story in the book about us trying to get up this mountain on the bike, and I'm suffering from serious at some point serious self-doubt. And John looked at me after we read this sign that says how many feet we're going to climb over the next 6 miles. He looked at me. I love the story, and he said, he looked at me. He said, "Sean," he said, "Granny gear, 6 miles, follow me." That's it. I would not have made the journey with John. John could have made it on his own. I wouldn't have made it. But for those 6 words, his taking the lead, me following, that's where I needed to be. I didn't need to be out in front. And his confidence that, listen, we're going to do this. So let's roll, get it into granny gear, and let's grind up the mountain. What we need are not more leaders. We've got plenty of titles. I just left a corporation that has executive vice presidents and CEOs and chairman of the board and managers and directors and executive. I mean, we can hand out titles all day long. What we need, forget about titles. We need people who are capable of leading other human beings and following in this mission-focused dance that we do in the real world, where you're serving. And this is another thing that John and I absolutely embrace and as a core part of what it means to lead. And that is, you're coming from a place of serving your teammate in the direction of mission. It is about service. And the more what we have observed, without question, and one of the cool things and one of the challenges in writing this book, John and I, we kind of play in lots of different worlds and this isn't just, these are Marine Corps principles for you civilians. This is about wilderness leadership. This is about business leadership. This is about law and leadership. This is about nonprofit world. This is about family. And but what you need are people who feel competent and comfortable enough to step into a leadership role as soon as that opportunity presents itself. And it may be, you may be focused here. We still need somebody leading over here on this issue, or right, looking out for one another. Whether it's an encouragement, whether it's, hey, look at what so and so is doing, whether it's bringing something to the table, whatever that is, picking up somebody else's load for a portion of the journey. We need teams filled with authentic leaders. If we are, spotting issues, recommending solutions, when that is happening all around you, now you've got a highly functioning team, and it's a lot more fun. So
what is it that you two do now, along with this book? Tell us about the work, the service that you do, and how people can find you.
Sure, thanks. So we've been doing it for a while. Sean and I are business-wise. We started a business. I guess it's been 8 years, Sean, ago. We started OnMission Leadership, LLC, and we do personal coaching, one-on-one coaching. We've done some very interesting programs, have a couple more lined up. Didn't see the virtual thing happening, but we kind of really started launching as we were both transitioning from our professional life to our post-professional life. I officially retired from teaching 2 years ago, and Sean about a year ago from the corporate world. So we've done some programs, some speaking, and to reverse engineer your question, Ed, a little bit about where we want this to go back to our motive. When we decided to write a book, I remember the conversation really well. We were chatting. We didn't say, hey, we're retiring, we need some revenue, let's start a business and let's start selling books. That was not even in the conversation. The conversation revolved around a passion for helping others find their voice as a leader, and believing that we had something to offer. And so that's where we wanted to go. And the aspects of the business, the coaching and the programming and the speaking and selling books has kind of been an outgrowth of that. But ultimately, it's to get the word out. We want, as Sean said, a community of authentic leaders prepared and willing to serve. And we think the world is going to be a better place, not to be too melodramatic, but we believe the world will be a better place if more people are willing and able to step up and shoulder their leadership responsibilities.
Well, guys, I appreciate what you've done, and I want to say to our listeners that how this fits into the things that I do, because my book, Circle of Impact, is kind of a big picture view, and I see your book, OnMission, as how to take what I have written and actually make it work. I think they're paired well because they're both believing that the individual can function as a leader in the world. And my definition of leadership is all leadership begins with personal initiative. to create impact that makes a difference, that matters. And that's what you're telling people, showing people how to do it. It's the journey to become a person of impact. And when I saw that this is what you were doing, you know, it thrilled me. And I get chills even thinking about this, because I think we live in a time where people are looking for a reason to believe in themselves, and they're looking for a reason to invest in a world which seems to be very ugly and very conflicted, and they don't really want to stick their neck out, and yet at the same time they want their lives to matter. And I think what you have designed here is a way of making your life matter. And if that is something that appeals to you as the people who are watching this or listening to this, then I highly recommend that you go online to OnMissionLeadership.com. And that's the
I think it's OnMissionLeaders.com, and there's also a website, OnMissionBook.com.
okay.
And we're also easily findable on LinkedIn, and that's our social media. So
Okay, so I really encourage you to do this. Don't ponder, don't think about it, just act on it, because I think you will be glad that you did. And you will find that there are many other people who are responding to the world, you know, in very quiet but very deliberate ways to make a difference that matters. And these two gentlemen here, who I respect deeply, are people that you ought to know, and I hope that you will. So I'm grateful for what you're doing, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you all again real soon. Bye-bye.
thank you very much, Ed. Appreciate you.
Thank you.